I had the idea for the book after I had my first child, my only child actually, 4 years ago, and I felt that I'd done a lot of preparation for the birth and for motherhood by reading lots of different books and planning very sort of strategically how the birth would be. I wanted a home birth, and I wanted a water birth at home with independent midwife, which I sort of got the independent midwife, but unfortunately the home birth turned into an emergency C-section after a induction, which is a very, very common story. I know lots of women have a similar experience where their planned birth doesn't actually kind of come to pass. The midwife sort of tried to latch this baby onto my boob, and I just was like, God, can I just have a bit of a nap, please? And it's like, well, obviously, no, you cannot have a bit of a nap. You've got to just get on with this really important task and, carry on, getting on with it. And I sort of realised in that moment, wow, this is like the only thing that matters is feeding this baby. And I literally had got through the whole of pregnancy. I was reading about it, I was educating myself. I had absolutely no idea that that was the case. For a variety of reasons, we couldn't breastfeed, and I ended up expressing all of his milk for 6 months, which turned me into an insane, mad person, as you can imagine. I really did think until that point that women either chose to breastfeed or they didn't breastfeed because they just didn't want to, and that was fine. I had no idea that it was pretty, sometimes almost impossible. 1 hour out of every 3, I was expressing milk, and that went on for 6 months, and I was sort of so determined that the fact that we'd had this quite bad start would not mean that my son would be sort of deprived of breast milk. And the reason on reflection, a bit of time subsided, I got, into the swing of things, was because I was so sort of fixated on this idea that breast is best, and it was because I'd read so much and I'd talked to so many people about this, and it is, if you can do it, probably breastfeeding is a wonderful, amazing thing. But I also really wished so much that I'd allowed for the fact that might not happen. What occurred to me slowly is that I'd sort of read so much prescriptive stuff about how motherhood should be and how you should go about being a mother and how you should look after your baby that I hadn't kind of planned for any alternative, and also I just felt really inadequate and really guilty and really sort of alone, and I was having a miserable time because I didn't really understand then, something that I really understand now, that it's different for everyone. You sort of do your best, you do what you've got to do, and it's kind of all fine. What I yearned for was just to read, not anyone telling me how it should be, was just telling me how it was for them. And I had this real vision that if you got kind of 20 women, 30 women, just talking about their experience, they're all going to be different. And I felt at the time it would have been immensely reassuring to just be able to read that without anyone telling me, do this, do that, or you're a bad mother because you haven't done that, or whatever it might be. There's a huge amount of pressure on women for motherhood to sort of be perfect, or for worse, actually, for them to sort of pretend that it is perfect. Because you just think, why would you do that? Why would you have to project this image? Especially when, I say in the book, you're doing the hardest job you'll probably ever do in your life for the first time, and you've got no sort of experience or guidance. And you're under pressure to sort of pretend everything's going brilliantly, which just seems so doubly unfair. My worst feeling is the idea that women are making other women feel bad, and I wanted to kind of find a way to do the opposite to that, which is to sort of gently make people feel better somehow, or reassure them. I think the best piece of advice I've had, and I kind of only really know this on reflection, is that everything is just a phase, and it is really, really true. And people said it to me when I was in the thick of one crisis or another, and I probably didn't even take it on board, but now I really, really do know that it's true. The other day, somebody asked me about potty training, and I at the time, it was like, because I'm a bit of a drama queen, I was like, this is literally never going to happen. And I couldn't even remember. I just said, oh, God, I'm so sorry. I actually don't remember how we did it. It just sort of happened. And then that's so annoying, isn't it, to give that advice? But it was a real reminder that you're in the thick of it, and you think it's never going to end, but it does, Be honest about how you're feeling, and don't be afraid, and don't feel the pressure to have a perfect time, because you're not going to. No one is going to have a perfect time. And by the way, there's no such thing as perfect. It's a complete sort of myth. And it just adds so much pressure and makes you feel inevitably very inadequate because you're not perfect, because you're human. And then the minute you start being honest about that with other people rather than sort of pretending that everything's fine, then I think things probably get a lot better. There's definitely a shift in terms of men's involvement with parenthood. I think men are much more engaged now. And actually, I think that there is the kind of books that are available for men tend to be kind of like, oh, what to do, it's sort of approaching it like what to do when your life is over and you can't go to the pub anymore, and which is actually a bit insulting to men, and it's kind of patronising, and I think it's unrealistic. I think men struggle just as much as women, actually. I think it's just as much of a seismic shock to men, if not more so, possibly, when they have their first child. And actually something I really love is that it's becoming more acceptable for men to become more involved in parenthood. I think there is a movement for men to be more present as parents, and that is nothing but a good thing.